Today we're going to be talking about reflections and reflective forms and their environments. So we're just going to jump right into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up with a one-to-one reflection, basically a mirrored reflection, right? That's just flat, like a 90-degree angle. That's going to be facing toward you or anything. It doesn't have to be just you. It could be the grass. And what's happening there is it's reflecting the light back onto what it's reflecting, right? A one-to-one copy. That is because why? Because of the form of the actual mirror, which is again just flat and a 90-degree angle, right? Straight. So what's so important about that is paying attention to those details. Is the reflected object, which is like a mirror, right? Or maybe a car or glass of some type, maybe armor. What is the form underneath the reflective object, right? Or let's take a look at another example. So this is of that famous sculpture. I forget where it's at. It might be Chicago. I'm not really sure. And they call it the bean, right? Something like that. Now you see this is reflecting the environment around it, right? It's not showing you a one-to-one reflection. See these people? That's their reflection right there. So that's not showing them a one-to-one reflections of themselves. Again, right here, that's showing them the reflections right there. Why is this reflection so warped? Well, because the shape's so warped. This reflection, from your point of view, is being determined by its form and where those forms turn, right? And where the form of this bean, right? The form of this bean, where those angles are shooting toward. You see how the color gets darker on this bean right here? Why is that happening? It's like a darker blue. Well, it's pointing up to the sky. And it's reflecting the darker blue sky up here. Why is it the color of this? Well, because it's reflecting that color right there. And why does it get darker right here? Well, because it's reflecting what's under it. It's reflecting its surface. So it's all about angles. We have to pay attention to the forms of the reflective object. That is what is so important. That is the most important detail when you're thinking about reflections. Right here, we see that they're reflecting everything that we cannot see in the photo, right? It's what's behind the person taking the photo. And so it's always important to basically think of the reflective object in these terms, that form. You're thinking of it in a format, right? Start figuring out where these forms are facing, right? These little forms are facing this way, right? Same with this. They start curving in, right? They start curving in. So where is it getting its light? It's getting it from right here. Right? It's shooting back and forth. Where's this area getting its light? Well, it's getting it from up there. So you have to think of it as, where are these surfaces facing? Are you gonna, is this area gonna reflect back to you where you're standing, right? The person who's taking this photo? No. It's gonna be reflecting where it's facing, which is in this direction. So it's all about direction, the direction of light. And that is gonna be dependent on where you're standing, right? Relative to what it's reflecting, right? Where is it reflecting? So those are the two biggest things. It's like, where am I standing? Now, where is this object reflection pointing to? Let's take another example. I think this example is even better than the last example because you can see these perspectives happening in real time, and you can literally draw over it and see those perspectives, and you got to learn how to see it. Now, what's happening here? This form is convex. Meaning, if you're looking at it from the side, it'd be rounded and shaped like that, right? If it was concave, you'd be going inside, right? And you would see it mirrored right there. But it's convex. This is the side of the mirror that's reflecting back and forth light, right? It's curved on the outside, right? Let's pay attention to that form. Why is it so distorted like this? Why is this reflection curving? Well, Let's draw it out. What's going on? Because it's shaped. It's shaped like that way. It's shaped like a sphere, right? What's going on is you're paying attention to the form. Don't be intimidated by the reflection. Don't be intimidated by all these lights and everything that's going around in the warp perspective. You're intimidated because you're not paying attention to the form underneath. That's all you need to pay attention to is the form. It's rounded out, right? That's what's going on. You got to break it down to the fundamentals, right? And then so it starts straightening out the closer it is to the surface. This is where it's the least warp, right? In the center, right? It looks like the most one-to-one copy because it starts straightening out. It gets less and less warped. And then right in the middle, it goes straight. You see how these in the middle, they're not warped anymore. It's just straight down. And it's almost straight ahead because it's less warped. Because it's less warped in the middle. You're kind of in the middle. You're almost seeing it head to head. It's the straightest it's going to be right there. Even though it's still curved, but it's pointing. The light's pointing toward you, right? The reflection back is coming back to you, right? So that's what's going on. But what's happening is that form is getting further and further away as it turns away from you. See right here? This area is turning away from you, right? Like we were talking about in the image before. The light starts shooting up. But what's happening? The light is shooting up, but it's also coming back. That reflection is also coming back. So it's catching the light from up high where the lights are, right? So it's catching all of that. Does that make sense? The light is coming in from this environment, right? And it's pointing toward here. That's why you can see up high, right? Without even looking up at the actual lights itself, you're seeing the reflection right here because it's banking off from this direction. That's what's going on. The light is hitting in different angles. And that's why you see the ground right here because it's pointing to the ground. Does that make sense? So don't be intimidated by the actual shape of the mirror or the mirrored or the reflected object. Pay attention to the form and where it is catching the environment, right? The reflection. That's what's going to be reflected is what it's pointing to, right? It's pointing outward. This is pointing upward, right? It's all about the form and the direction of light. Don't be intimidated by the actual reflection. Know the fundamentals. Let's take one more example. I love this example because a lot of beginner artists will show examples like this. Oh, draw a sphere. Oh, it's so easy. But I think a lot of artists get intimidated by the reflection. They don't understand what's going on. Well, what is going on? The reason why these aren't really that great for lessons is because, yeah, you can break it down, but do you exactly know what's going on? Also, it's in a controlled environment where usually you're not going to get simplistic reflections like this, right? So it's like the most ideal reflection, and you're just kind of faking it. Like in any other scenario, are you going to find yourself in the studio with a white paper, background, right? And then with some key lights. That's basically what's going on here. That's a table, right? And it's reflecting the ends of the tables because the shape of the sphere, right? It's only reflecting its environment. And then up top, it has these 3 key lights. And it's just reflecting them. And the reason why, the one light's over here, one light's over here, and one light's about right there. It's just reflecting its environment. And it's probably like the ceiling somewhere, and it's cutting off right there. That's it. You just can't be intimidated by these reflections. You have to understand what is going on. And again, why does it get dark in this area? Because it's copying this shadow. It's another thing that affects reflection, and that is roughness. So think of like an eggshell. That's relatively rough, and so it doesn't really have a reflection. But think of something like chrome. That's not very rough. That's very, very smooth, right? It's a very smooth surface. So what happens? It's also metal, so it's going to be very, very reflective. Take a look at this. This is a roughness and metallic kind of diagram. The more metallic, it can be metallic, but if it's rough, it doesn't matter how metallic it is. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be shiny, right? The less roughness it has, it's going to be more reflective. So as we see the roughness go down, right? See how it's at 0 right here, 0.2 right here, 0.4. As we see the roughness go down, we're going to see that it reflects. And then once you get more metallic, it's going to be completely reflective, right? Like chrome. And let's take another example right here. These are all different types of roughness, right? But the smoother they get, the more reflective they are, right? That's really rough. That's not so rough. Starting to get a little bit more smoother, right? And the reflectivity gets higher, and it's a lot smoother. So the reflectivity and the reflection gets a lot clearer, and then it's perfectly clear the smoother it is, right? Now look at all these examples, right? The more rough it is, and then as it gets smoother and smoother and more metallic, that reflection is blurry right over here. And as the smoother it gets, the more clear the reflection. Look at it. Now it's literally a perfect mirror right here. So these are details that you'll have to pay attention to. You're not only looking at the roughness of something, but you're also looking at the form and the direction of light, right? So it's all these little things that you have to pay attention to in order to understand how reflection works when it comes to the environment surrounding it. Sorry about that. Maybe it wasn't so quick, but I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.